Hi, welcome to the Superior Comic Show with me, your host Peter. And yes, Alfred Molina did give me a shout out in the No Way Home trailer. And unless he says different, I'm believing that. So I'm here today with a good friend of mine from TikTok, Michael Rothman. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, man. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me join. Couldn't be more pumped. I appreciate your shout out in the No Way Home trailer. I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've been out here grinding, so it's about time I got some recognition.
Hey, Tom's been a fan of yours for a long time, man. So don't sell yourself short.
It's that British-Irish connection. we definitely don't have a rocky past.
Yeah, I'm jealous, man. I wish I had a nice British accent right now, especially with audio. But it's fine. I'll do with what I was given. It's fine.
Yeah, look, the American accent works perfectly. I find the American accent is almost a default for entertainment platforms nowadays. It's any different sort of accent people hear that, like if an English person hears me, they hear the Irish accent and they're like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this.
Do English people and Irish people like American accents, or is it not like over here where basically women and men swoon when they hear a nice fancy British accent?
I wouldn't say that like the English or Irish hate or love the American accent. I think it's just we've grown up with all the TV shows and the movies, and it just became the default for when we're watching something that any other accent just sticks out like a sore thumb.
Okay, that's fair. So we're basically vanilla. It's okay. That's fine.
Well, look, I'm gonna get right into it. I called you out there during the week for a very big flex for a midweek, back from your Marvel reporting days with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, dude. It's funny, man. Like I've only posted a couple, but God, man, I was going through some of the old archives and I just miss it so much. And I was just going through all the stuff that you don't really realize when you're doing it, how exciting it is and how much fun it is. But I mean, I worked for ABC News and Marvel for, almost 7 years and under the Disney umbrella. And I would go to the movies like 3 or 4 days in advance of them coming out. And, you got the free Disney tickets and then, and all those opportunities, man. It's so funny. I was going through and I just now more than ever, and it's always, you don't know what you have till it's gone. And so now it's a bittersweet thing to see those things, but I'm happy to be doing this here and now and, keep pushing forward.
Yeah. I promise I'm not jealous. It's just, it must have been crazy. Like, honestly, obviously you've done, you must have done some form of journalism then at college level.
Yeah, so I actually started off doing sports, and then one thing led to another, and I was doing movies and TV and stuff like that. And I've always been a huge comic and fandom fan. And it's funny. I came in, and my first thing that I got lucky enough to be paired up with an editor and a producer who was a huge Star Wars fan. So our first like joint venture was like, we got to start doing, they weren't doing Marvel stuff. They weren't really covering any of the movies or the comics. And we got to do a lot of cool stuff. We used to kind of it was funny that from the publishing end too, we used to be able to kind of really break news. And I think we broke Civil War II when it came out, like all these kinds of really cool events that were happening. Because I think, they didn't know that ABC or Good Morning America really cared about it until I was like jumping down their throats trying to get like any kind of preview or anything. And I was getting the coolest stuff ever. I mean, I remember when, it wasn't when they got rid of Iron Man in Civil War II, him and his huge fight with with Captain Marvel. We got all those pages early, and we would read it like a week or two before they came out, and they just saw immediately how much they had 2 or 3 or 4 nerds on the ABC GMA side, and it was great. They were loving it, and it was funny because like again, we're in this little bubble, which is awesome, like comics and movies and MCU and stuff. But like when you're in like a newsroom that's like covering like other stuff, it's not the same. And so I would run and be like, oh my God, they're gonna kill off Iceman. And people would be like, what are you talking about? We don't care. And so like, so it's, there's a presidential election going on next week. And I was like, who cares? So yeah, I mean, it was great. And we got to do a lot of cool stuff with like Lucasfilm too. And it was a blast, man. It was awesome.
So look, going into it, like your first couple of interviews with the big names. I don't know if you remember who your first would have been.
Oof. First interview ever, like outside the scope when it was just entertainment, was the singer Akon, which is a random weird take back, and it just spiraled from there. First fandom, I gotta say, God, there were some really good ones. I want to say, oh man, who was it? We had a really good sit down when Daredevil came out on Netflix with John Bernthal and cast. And I'll never forget, the best story I have is that he doubted. I mean, there's those actors that don't believe. Look, there's a lot of BS. I don't even know if I can curse right now, but there's a lot of like
Irish podcast. Curse away.
So in entertainment reporting, you get a lot of bullshit, right? That's why there's like, you have the people that are on the red carpet and they're doing like like, hi, what are you wearing? Like that really ridiculous stuff. And then you got the true fans. And so I think they get used to the people that are just full of bull, right? And so it was funny. I think it was Daredevil Season 2. And Bernthal, who's like just a no bullshit kind of guy, was I was telling him like, oh, I'd watched the whole season. I thought it was great. And I was like, and he's like, you're full of shit. You didn't watch it. And he literally said that before we were like going live. And so I literally started it. But the funny thing, he was with the actress who was in Daredevil and Punisher. God, what's her name? With the red hair. I gotta look her up, but she was a sweetheart. And she like looked at him and she goes, they're hosting a show called Inside Marvel. You don't think they watched the show? And then he's like, oh yeah, you're right. Cause I mean, they go from like, they literally go from show to show, like Entertainment Tonight, there's ABC, NBC, whatever. So they're just used to all the crap that they hear, and the same questions they get over and over and over again. So that was a fun one. And then I think the all-time highlight that I'm dying to try to find the recording of, because oh my God, I hope I didn't lose it. Stan Lee, before he passed, was a great one. I had a phoner. I saw him in person a couple of times at Comic-Con, but I was able to have a phone call with him. And obviously he was one of those ones like you earmark from day one. You're like, I got to speak to this guy. And I was able to talk to him, and I got really cool classic stuff that I really was excited about. Like he told me the origin of Spiderman, the story he said probably a million times before, but I didn't care. Like I was like, you know what, I'm going to get it again. And how he, that the publisher didn't want this character, and that, he had to slip it in. Like he actually could have gotten fired for what he did. Like they cut the character, and he basically said like they slipped it in, and it went out. And Amazing Fantasy 15, I think, was which is over there, which was the last in the Amazing Fantasy books. But the publisher came into his office like 2 months later and was like, that book sold like 8 times more than any other book in the series. And so then they started Spider-Man, the series. And so, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I knew it. Like the guy came full circle and was like, how about that spider character we threw, shot you down. So that was the one that I got to find the recording for that one, because that's one that like you hold on to. And I think it's somewhere, I just hope it's not damaged or destroyed or whatever. Cause that's one that like now you hold to the vest.
Yeah. That's when you show to future generations.
Yeah. If I find that audio, I'm going to put it on TikTok. I mean, that's one that like the Hugh one was something special too. And I'll stop rambling and shut up in a second, but the Hugh one was great. I mean, look, I always, the main thing I always say is I always am honest and upfront with, you deal with a lot of BS and stuff. And when I interviewed him at the end, I said like, look, and I shared it in the video, and I was like, look, like, just thanks for everything you did. Cause I mean, he's basically the start of all this stuff, right? He was prior to Spider-Man, prior to Iron Man, X-Men was the first one. And it's just kind of amazing to see 20 years later what, he and the cast and Feige was there early on too. So all those guys are able to accomplish and kind of give all of us nerds what we've been dying for years. So it's kind of amazing.
I can imagine, like, and I swear you keep sharing those recordings of all your interviews on TikTok. You're asking to be blocked at this stage.
Hey, I'll take it as a badge of honor, dude. I mean, I've been blocked my fair share of actors, so I'm fine with that.
In all seriousness, though, how do you keep, say, as a comic fan yourself and a movie fan, how do you keep your cool going into them interviews? Like, I know I'd fall over my words. I'd be marking out.
It's tough, man. I mean, when I met Mark Hamill, like, there's a lot of times where he was another one that's up there, like Stan Lee, Mark Hamill, and when he came in for Last Jedi, it was either Last Jedi or we did an interview for The Rise of Skywalker was the last one. It's tough. Like, I usually don't ask for photos, because you're doing it day in and day out and you don't want to do it. But when it comes to something like that, you're like, I got to take a photo. And so I think you just kind of have fun with it. And if they're, I think the hardest thing is if they disappoint you, because there's going to be some that disappoint you. And that's the ones that you never let go of. And luckily the top ones haven't, like the Ryan Reynolds of the world. He was a great interview and super nice and humble. Stan Lee, Mark Hamill, Hugh Jackman couldn't have been nicer. People like that. I've had a few. Trying to think who I can name right now.
You're basically listing off my fantasy birthday party, like, right now.
I mean, thank God. I mean, there's some that have been a nightmare. I mean, that were just bad. And you hear all the stories, like the Alex Rodriguez of the world and the Ryan Phillippe. These aren't even in our scope of like what we care about. But, they're just not, like, you have some people that are genuine and some people that aren't. And luckily for us, that's why I like the Mark Hamills of this world. And I always bring him up too. Just a guy who just loves the fans. I mean, Chris Evans. That's another one who I didn't work with him as much, but I worked with, and this was an honor too. Christopher's Haven is the charity that he really works with in Boston, which is in the States. And I worked with their director there to kind of do stories about his work with them. And he didn't want, he wasn't involved. Like, he's not looking for any kind of like recognition, but it's just kind of cool to see that he actually is Captain America, like, behind the scenes. And she would talk so highly of him. And that's the kind of thing that's great. Like, look, on the other side of it, and it's funny, I usually try to watch my tongue, but you have guys like, nice enough guy, Ben Affleck, but he hated being Batman. You could tell he hated being Batman. And the guy like despised it and would go to carpets and like, he didn't want to be there. And he would talk about his other movies. And then you got guys like Robert Downey Jr. who like bring, robotic arms to kids who, that's amazing. I mean, keep doing that. Mark Hamill's the same way. I have so much respect for those kinds of guys. And they're using their stuff for good, and they love it. They're like in it, and so I think but keep them cool. It's tough, man. There, you once you get in a rhythm, you're good, but there's definitely the jitters when you start, man. It's tough. Like the first 30 seconds to a minute of speaking to someone of like that caliber. I think Stan Lee, my like heart was pounding out of my chest. Like, it's like this guy. And plus I also it was over the phone. So he had me repeat myself a couple times because the guy was 93 years old. Yeah. So I was like talking to my grandfather. So I'm like, basically like, hey, tell me about the origin of Spider-Man. He's like, Mike, speak up. What did you say? And I'm like, oh my God, Stan Lee can't hear me right now. And so that was, yeah.
I can only imagine. Like, you listen to all these names where like I've messed up on this show a couple of times. I've like haven't had any names as big as Mark Hamill or Stan Lee, but I've spoke to Kim Rhodes from Supernatural.
Oh, that's awesome.
Kelly Thompson, Al Ewing, and all them, and I've fallen over my words trying to talk to them. It's amazing to me how someone can keep their cool. I've tripped over my words, I've got stuff wrong, and I've been like, no.
Yeah, but I'm sure like the cool thing about stuff like this is, and I think the modern age that we're dealing with podcasting and TikTok and things like that, you're gonna have some people that are doing it for the wrong reasons, but then you have people like you. And I guarantee you, man, and like I said, like, one thing I want to put a pin in is that, like, everything I did that was cool was for work. So it wasn't, I never thought I was cool. It was me just kind of like living the dream and enjoying it. So I love it. I love talking about it, but I definitely putting it out there. I don't think I'm cool. Like, it was for work and all that stuff. But I think from my experience of talking to people and getting to know people and building relationships, they love doing stuff like this. And I guarantee you, and I would make a bet on it with money, that they love the interactions with you. And if you do, if there's a slip up or something that's fun and whatever, and they can tell that you're just excited about it, I'm telling you, man, if they're an artist and a creator, they love it more than anything else. And I think that is what makes this whole thing so cool. When you go to Comic-Con and, like, I didn't interview, but I met Tom Hiddleston. Actually, I walked into the bathroom before a shoot and he was in there for quite a while. So I think he was actually going to number 2, but I'm just going to say that out there. That was right when he was doing The Night Manager, that series. And it was after, I mean, I'm a huge fan of his. Like, I think his Loki's amazing. I've seen I haven't been to Comic-Con when he was there, but I've seen, how into it he got. And those are the kinds of people, like, are great. And they're going to appreciate what you're doing that much more, and appreciate what other creators and artists are doing. And I think that's the really good side of this whole thing, this whole social media, aspect and new mediums and stuff like that. So that's the kind of stuff that really gets me excited, because there's the bad side too. But yeah, man, I feel like I'm being a therapist right now, but, like, I'm just being honest.
It's like you said, I found with them, like what you said about all the best kind of big stars, is they really are just people when you get down to it. I've had other podcasters ask me, how did you get this person on the show? I'm like, I just asked. I left a comment, or I sent a tweet at them, and I simply just asked, and they said yes, or they said no, or they just didn't get back to me, and move on.
The worst thing that you can have is either a no or a no response. But I think more times than not, you'll get surprised by, like, the yeses. I mean, the Stan Lee interview, I think he was working at the time, or not working, but he was running, it was like POW Media was his new venture or whatever. So I literally sent, like, a blind email to, like, the PR person, was like, I'm at ABC, I'd love to interview him. And he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And he talked about POW a lot, and then he talked about, Marvel and stuff. But yeah, man, that's epic, man. And just keep doing what you're doing, because it's great. And it's really what makes this community so great. Like, every time we comment back and forth, there's another guy that's great at, I think, all the movie things. I love that guy. That guy is, and the funny thing is that I literally, for the first time ever, like, on social, I got, like, a little emotional, because he blew up with a recent post. And he was like, he posted, and dude, how can you not appreciate a guy like that? Like, he posted a post thanking everyone. And I just was like, dude, I'm so happy for you, man. Like, it couldn't happen to a better guy. Like, this is a great community. And so I love that kind of stuff. And I know everyone appreciates that too.
I do find on TikTok, like, that there almost is a little kind of, like you were mentioning earlier, a bubble of, like, for me anyway, I have a bubble of about 7 or 8 creators that I interact with on a daily basis, and just, like, all the movie things, I mean, he was there, I hit 1,000, and he was the first one in to congratulate me, and then he blew up.
Awesome.
And I felt like almost like a proud little brother. I was so proud of him. Yes, I was like, there we go, there's the recognition you deserve. And
it's like
you're starting to put up now a bit as well. I'm not sure if it's the flexes or
it takes up such a weird space. Yeah. I mean, like, there was one day where, like, I was like, what is going on? Like, I gained like 500 followers. I'm like, wait, I didn't even post anything. And so, like, TikTok's such a weird space, and you post something and you'll get, like, because it's almost like what if, like, each post is not interconnected, essentially. Like, you'll see it, but the algorithm and how it works. And so, like, I'll post something and it's so funny. And one day I'm like, this is awesome. And it's got like 100 views. And I'll post something that's like, I think it's crap. And it's got like 50,000. I'm like, what is going on here? Like,
it's just hard to, speaking of, actually, you know what I'm going to do while we're talking? I might go live just to give a sneak peek and just tease people.
Do it. Let's do it.
With that. Let me just go live there. There we go. We'll drop a little tease. I always forget that I can do this on TikTok.
I haven't done that yet. on
It's
live yet. I haven't tried it yet.
it's nerve-wracking.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what we used to do. We used to cover red carpets and movie premieres, and you realize that you can't, like, you're on. Like, you're not going down. Like, this is not editing. You're on.
Yeah.
And so
It is very nerve-wracking, and the worst is when you find you end up going on and you're on live for 5 minutes and there's nobody there, and people only want to stay if they come in and it's engaging right away. But I'm like, I'm not going to sit here talking to 0 people.
So can they, when you're live, this is almost like a little tutorial here on live. When you're live, can they comment back and forth? It's not like one-sided like Instagram is? Okay, cool.
And it's like, random people pop in, and I've actually gained a good couple of followers from the lives. Even
that's awesome.
They weren't great, but I gained followers, so somebody liked it.
I wonder, can you do that for like, because we could do like, would be fun is like a movie watching party almost.
Yes,
just go live.
I've seen a couple of people done a watch party for the No Way Home trailer.
That's awesome. I saw your reaction, by the way. It was great.
Yeah, well, actually, speaking of, before we go on to that, I actually want to talk to you about the No Way Home trailer. I want to ask.
I was just about to segue into that and ask what you thought.
I want to get one more question in there about the reporting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe you've got this a lot, maybe you haven't, but I've heard about your best. What was your worst or most awkward experience?
Oh man, there's a few. Do you ever, I got a couple and I'm trying to think of the best one. Do you watch the CW shows at all? Like The Flash and like Legends and like, all right. So Victor Garber, nicest guy in the world. Right. And again, you have to know that everyone can either have an off day or just be completely sick of hearing something, right? And I'm sure he is sick of hearing about Jennifer, or was about Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner. Because obviously he was like, I think he married them, right? Like he was like super, because he was on the show with her forever. And so I used to work for about a year. I was a stringer for Us Weekly and like that whole community, Wenner Media. So very much like going to parties and like reporting on like, that kind of stuff. And but I was doing interviews too, like going to carpets, doing interviews and doing fun things. I got to go to Man of Steel for them, which to this day, tangent, is the biggest carpet I've ever seen. Like it was literally a football field long. Like there had to be 200 media there because they brought in international media for Man of Steel. They had like people from Japan and people from China. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen and the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so that was cool. But all right, tangent. But that day we had to interview him, and of course, being Us Weekly, Us Magazine is kind of like a gossipy magazine, and they 100% wanted to know, like, this is probably circa 2012, 2013. And they were still good there, still going strong, all that stuff. And it was cold. It was Broadway. He was coming for a friend. I think it was like the opening of his friend's play or something like that. And we talked for a few minutes, and then I had to drop that question. And there's always like, when you're covering this kind of stuff, there's always like, when you're younger doing this stuff, you have to ask the questions that get traffic, right? That get clicks, that like, and also your editors assign you. When you get older, you can start doing what you want and building those relationships. But it was awkward, and I was dreading it because I was like, this is such a stupid segue into this question. And so I asked him like something about like, what makes Jen and Ben such a good couple? And it was in full disclosure, it was a stupid question. I didn't even handle it right. And he looked at me and was like, I thought he was going to slap me. And he was like, said something, I think, an explicative. And he was like, I don't want to talk about Jen and Ben. And the funny thing is the way he topped it off, and he was super nice at that point and afterwards too. He was wearing leather gloves because it was New York in the winter, and he pulled his glove off. And I was like, is he going to slap me with his glove? Like, is this going to be like a duel? Like, and he just went to shake my hand with his bare hand. I don't know if that was more of like a sign of power or whatever. And I was like, dude, you got me, whatever. But that's probably my most awkward experience by far. And I'll never forget that. I was like mortified and was like, all right, I need to get out of here.
Well, look, you made it through, even though in that moment it seemed like there was no way home. And there's our segue.
Oh man, that was good.
Yeah, let's get on to it. Everyone's talking about it. There's no point in trying to avoid it. Anyone watching or listening to this, it's going to be Friday by the time it comes out. If you haven't seen the trailer, what are you doing with your life? Go watch it and come back, because we're about to have a little chat about it.
Yeah, you don't get a spoiler for a trailer though, so I call shenanigans to anybody who's like, oh, spoil. I mean, I got it a couple of times for posts that I've posted, but dude, go see the trailer. You have no excuse. So yeah, we're talking about it.
You don't have to go to a theater for it. It's YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
So like the first part about the trailer was the madness of the leaks. Like what?
Yeah.
24 hours before it was due to release.
Well, I will say the funny thing is, who did you? I think everyone that I was saying, and I saw that Marvel and Spiderman did a little dig at people. Did you see that tweet where they said, "Here's for all the real ones who are watching it"? Look, I watched the leak. I'm sorry. Like I have no regrets, no apologies for that. Like I watched the leak. Like the same way, like if I was given a movie, I would watch it. You know, I used to have a friend that when I used to be a Walking Dead fan, he used to work at AMC, and he would cut the billboards, like not the billboards, the in Times Square, the ads, like the AMC, and he would like, he's like, dude, it's like AMC is the most locked down place, but he would give me some previews and stuff. He'd send me photos, and I'm like, I'm not gonna not look at this stuff, like, and they were like spoiler filled photos, like people dying and stuff, and I was like. And hopefully I don't get him in trouble for saying this. I don't think he works for AMC anymore, so it's fine. But yeah, look, the spoiler thing I think is one thing. I get it. People get a little like their panties in a bunch over nothing. So
with the leaks,
but yeah,
I would be the first one to watch it, but I decided I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna wait and do my first reaction on YouTube with the actual trailer. I got up at 5 a.m. to do a reaction, and it's got about 30 views. So next time I'm watching the damn leak.
That's what, dude, TikTok and YouTube is so weird. Some things go crazy, some things don't. But yeah, I mean, I will say this though, in all fairness, the real trailer was so much better than the leaked one. So much better. Remember when Batman v Superman was leaked?
Yes.
That first trailer? I didn't really see the big difference. And then Zack Snyder, God, man, I can't really remember this stuff, but Zack Snyder shared it later on and was like, here's the real thing in HD. And it was funny because I remember like I had my laptop and I had to write the story, and I was like publishing from afar, and I was in like a bathroom typing about Batman v Superman. And I think like I was making like noises. I think some guy thought I was having like Crohn's or something like that. Something in a store, like I was sitting there trying to get the Wi-Fi and send the story in, because I was like, it was late at night. It was like 8 or 9 o'clock at night when he released it. But this one was worth the wait. It was damn good. And there's a lot of little hidden things that I've only noticed, really slowing it down and really looking over and over again. And then also doing the research and trying to see what people are saying. And before I got on this, it was one that I saw that was epic about how all the villains get together, and it sounds legit. And I look, is it ruining the potential of the movie? I don't know. But I like to know what I'm walking into. I don't want to know what happens, but I like to know what I'm walking into, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to see Toby or Andrew until the movie itself. So
no,
they're going to keep it under wraps.
I think my thing with them is, now I am not very quiet about my dislike for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but I try not to judge people who like him, because I don't want to be that guy. I'm like, okay, he's your Spider-Man, but he's not mine. It was just something about that first movie of him in high school reminded me of I think it's Steve Buscemi in that film where he goes into the school dressed with his hat backwards. He's like, hello, fellow children. And yeah. But I don't think...
I mean, there's no denying how ugly his crying face is and how weird his crying face is. And I need to use that more often. I was like making TikTok stickers with it for the longest time. And I got to bring that back, because it is his crying when Uncle Ben dies is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then also his crying in the third one with Harry and everything is just, I mean, you can't replicate it. It's amazing.
It just nothing about it. The only thing that sat right with me about those three movies were the villains. minus that 70s Venom. Other than that, it was only the villains that sat right with me. But with him, even the whole thing, oh, you get an alien symbiote, that means you need to do an emo fringe.
Well, I mean, that third one, dude, that one needs to be wiped off. I really hope there is some Deadpool style fourth wall breaking jokes in this movie about that. You know, like, what is it like? Give us some shade, and he's like, and then he starts playing the piano, and I mean, it's the greatest. It is the greatest worst movie in history, and given how good Sam Raimi is as a director and a creator and artist. I don't know how that happened. And I need to, again, I would love to talk to Sam Raimi about it and be like, look, is it a Zack Snyder situation where he had a great movie and it was destroyed by Sony? Like, cause I believe that, like, I fully believe that. Sony's been notorious for that. So I want to know, cause that movie was so bad. It's not even funny. And even the villains in that one were pretty bad. I mean, Sandman had a nice arc with his daughter. Appreciated that. But yeah, I mean, it was such a departure from the second one. So good. I mean, Alfred Molina is epic. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. And yeah, Toby, I mean, he's a polarizing figure, right? Like, I think his Spider-Man is beloved. I like the first two movies. I also realize how silly he is. And maybe that's the thing that people also liked as well. So I'm impartial to it. But yeah, we'll see. Another controversial statement. I didn't hate Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. Like, I wasn't really.
He was great. I thought as Spider-Man, he was fantastic. I thought he had the quips down, he had the look down, and the physique down. I thought as Spider-Man, he's brilliant. But I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 suffered the same pitfalls as Spider-Man 3. Yeah. They shoehorned in too much into one movie. Like I was saying on social the other day, like Paul Giamatti, man, I mean, if you look at that cast of Spider-Man 2, it's a really good cast. Like, I can't say I like Andrew Garfield as a person. I think he's kind of a little, whatever, but he's a damn good actor. He's really accomplished. And then you got, I mean, obviously, I think Jimmy Fox is a great actor as well. And then you have Paul Giamatti's epic. I mean, the guy is one of the most underrated, like, actors who can carry like anything. And he got done wrong, man. Like, his Rhino was it's awful. Same thing with Jamie Foxx's Electro, like his weird blobby looking Electro that they made. I hope it does something better for this one. Like, it was like you said, but Andrew, I haven't watched enough of his interviews to know what he's like, kind of get a feel of him as a person. But as an actor, he's great. And him and Emma Stone had great chemistry as Peter and Gwen. And again, 2 movies in, you're not even at a trilogy yet, and you decide to pull the cord on the death of Gwen Stacy storyline. I was like, why 2 movies in? That's a trilogy ending moment.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've thought a lot about this too, right? So, like, for the longest time, I wondered why a movie like Batman v Superman irked me so much. And I've watched it. I've watched the extended cut, which is like 4 hours long. I've watched, like, now I don't know if you watch the 6 hours Justice League, but I mean, much better than the original, but 6 hours is crazy. But I think the reason Batman v Superman like pissed me off so much was because there was so much potential there. There was like really good nuggets, but that just didn't come together. And then like things like the Martha comment that you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what, like, how did no one raise their hand and say, dude, hey, Zach, this is a terrible idea. We got to take this out. People are going to destroy us. And there was potential there. Like, it's funny because people found stuff later on and they were like, my God, there's like a gold mine of like, there was someone posted a photo one time, those kryptonite bullets that he fired at him, the ones that like exploded of gas. Like, you had to look at like, and again, this is Zack Snyder, who's like the ultimate like artist director, like gritty. He shared photos and like, apparently I didn't notice it, but like they had the elemental thing for lead so that Superman couldn't see what was in there. They were wrapped in lead, like the bullets, the casing. I mean, that's like a Kevin Feige attention to detail right there. Like that's epic. And so I think that was the main thing that pissed me off. And the same thing with Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like there was good elements in there that I was like, oh, this could be good. And same thing was like, I don't know if you saw the deleted scene of his dad who apparently faked his dad. And he was like, and he's shaking him in the cemetery after looking. I'm like, that I think is I mean, again, it goes against the grain of the comics, right? And so you're going to have people that are going to be like, fuck you, Sony. This is the worst idea ever. And then you have guys like me, just from a purely perspective, that I think that's a great scene. I mean, that's Andrew Garfield is his best. I like the guy who played the father. He used to be in a couple other shows. And that's a really good scene where he like breaks down. He's like, he just lost all of his life. My son is like freaking out and dying. And like, I love that. I loved when he tried to save her and like the web becomes the hand and tries to grab her in slow motion. I'll never forget that scene. So there was a lot of good things. And the kid at the end with Rhino, like I like that kid aspect. It almost reminds me of Peter Parker in Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Like there was some things in there that I was like jazzed about. And then they just, I don't know, when a studio just slaps something together and doesn't make it cohesive, like it's just such a missed opportunity. And I think that is what happened with Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's just like all these weird random pieces. Dane DeHaan, great actor. He's terrible in that movie. Like he's so weird. And like, I loved him in Chronicle. And then you got, a lot of people forget Felicity Jones is in there for like 5 minutes from Rogue One. And she's like his secretary. She's there and I don't know if I think she was going to be some character too. And like, it's just a lot of missed opportunity there. It's a great caliber. I mean, when you just throw Daniel Day-Lewis in there while you're at it, I mean, you're throwing in like the biggest A-list cast ever. Like let's get Meryl Streep in there as like Black Cat or something. I mean, it's insane. Yeah.
Like
who hates it?
There on the TikTok live, one of the followers, Badass Pawpaws, just basically said they changed too much about Rhino and they went way too far with the changes to Green Goblin. Yeah.
That whole thing with his dad, and then he's all like at the end, it comes and goes, and it was too much. I mean, I like the cameo where you start to see the Sinister Six coming together. Again, there's like little elements there that you're like, oh, this is good. And then when it all fell apart, it was such a tease, right? Yeah. Like it just,
I'm sorry. And Sony keep playing hardball with Disney over the whole contract for Spider-Man, but they've proven time and time again, they cannot execute a decent Spider-Man franchise. It just hasn't worked for them.
I mean, the first two were good. And ostensibly, I think Spider-Man 2 is still a classic, but it's a classic pre 2008. So 2008, everything changed, right? So you have Iron Man, which creates the universe that we're seeing today. And I love to get into that with Spider-Man 2, because I think we're finally starting to see that. But then also, I think I looked into this a long time ago and spoke to a bunch of like directors and stuff about this too. The Dark Knight, like some people say the Dark Knight ruined comic book movies because it raised the bar so much, but there is a turning point in there. And it's funny, like a friend of mine had to tell me for me to understand it. And he was like, dude, 2008 was when The Dark Knight became the first movie that wasn't a comic book movie first and foremost. It was just a really damn good crime movie that happened to have Batman and Joker in it. And from that point on, if you look at like the trajectory, like things changed. So Spider-Man 2 is a great movie that shows like how shitty it is to be a superhero and how he wants to be a normal life. But it still has that pre-2008, pre-MCU, pre-The Dark Knight feel. And so it's not, I think it stands the test of time, but it's still not, I don't think it's the number one anymore. I mean, The Dark Knight to me is still one of the greats. I think Endgame's up there too. I mean, God, what a
it's in my top 5 if I was to list them off. But along that same kind of line of what you said about it was a crime movie first and foremost, my number one favorite comic book superhero movie is, in my opinion, a spy movie first and foremost, and that's The Winter Soldier.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it just happened. It's like a friendship movie about, redemption, and he won't give up. And then, it's not, I mean, God, it's not a superhero movie. And so Yeah.
It goes against
Everything.
the grain of everything that came before it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And I think there's no going back too. I think once you have that, you can't go back and that's what movies like Suicide Squad tried to do, right? Like Suicide Squad was an insult. The first one, not the Suicide Squad. Because I love James Gunn. I think he's great. I think he takes risks, and I think he's got his. I mean, you knew when you watched that movie, you knew it was James Gunn. Like his style is just so like there, and I love his films. Suicide Squad was a fucking joke, and I remember walking out of there, and it's very rare that I walk out. Also, am I cursing too much? But it's very rare that you walk out of a movie angry. I was so angry. I actually wrote an open letter for ABC at the time, was like trash the DC universe because of how bad that. I was so excited for David Ayer's take on it, and it ended up being just like the worst movie ever. Like every trope in there, and they just threw a bunch of characters in there, like, oh, we'll get Will Smith and Margot Robbie, and we'll just throw in these people, and it was garbage, man. So the fans deserve better, and I think we're getting all kinds of different things, and we're in a pivot period, and I think DC's finally coming around, and so we're in a really good stage of this stuff right now.
Because I think I know we went from talking about the No Way Home trailer. We'll get back to we went in the time.
Oh, we gotta talk about all the hidden things in there. We can talk about that for like 6 hours. Like,
I think
hope your battery's enough to keep going live on this one.
I think with the DCEU, the issue with it was, and this is just my opinion, I'm not no insider information or anything like that, I think they just tried to catch up with Marvel, like, and do in 10 years what Marvel done, doing 1 year what Marvel done. And it felt too rushed to just have a Superman movie, a Batman movie, and then bring the whole Justice League together.
Yeah, and the way they did it was so cheap. I mean, with like, if Batman v Superman, like the files that he hacks in and he gets them, and it's like Wonder Woman and Flash, and then and again, it's another one where you get annoyed because I love Ezra Miller. I think his Flash is going to be funny and quippy, and I'm excited to see like Michael Keaton and like other people in there. I think they're making a good turn. But yeah, I mean, Ben Affleck was a terrible choice. Good, good, solid actor. Respect him as a producer, whatever. Good riddance. Like, honestly, dude, like, he didn't want to do it, and it's fine. Henry Cavill he's an enigma to me. I think like I think his mood changes from day to day. Like, you think like sometimes he just wanted no part of it, and then other times he seems like, I mean, he posted that one thing when they announced that he wasn't going to be there, and he like did that little Instagram thing where he had the Superman thing floating up, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I can jam with this. Like, that's cool. So he's a tough one to read. It's funny because you can tell the guys. Here's a little inside reporter like knowledge. Like, you can tell, and I learned this from interviewing directors and producers and actors. When an actor is in a bunch of shitty movies but keeps coming back, he's a great actor to work with. So Jai Courtney was in the first Suicide Squad, and when they brought him back, I'm like, and I've heard this from people too. People say he's a blast, and so like I was like, there's a reason why Margot Robbie's a very talented, amazing actress, so they're gonna bring her back no matter what. But like, it was funny to see these like kind of, he's not really known, right? But they bring him back. So like, that's kind of fun to see, like these guys that get it and love it and are into it, and not the guys who are like, take it so seriously and whatever, because that's not what it's about.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm gonna tease the live here a little bit. We had a good few people in there, so I'm just gonna say thank you to them all for popping in, and I'm gonna end it after I ask this question. The Sinister Six in No Way Home trailer, we have a look at basically 5. So who do you think the 6th is gonna be?
So let's all right. So we got Doc Ock, we got Goblin. God, I'm so excited for Goblin. Yes. There's still a better Goblin in the world than Willem Dafoe. Is a scary dude. So there's no one better. So we got all right, Doc Ock, Goblin. We got Electro for sure. We have Sandman in there. And then the 5th one, it looks like Lizard, right?
Lizard. I'm 99% sure it's Lizard. People mentioning these things are having me questioning it, but my gut says it's Lizard.
Yeah, God, I would love a Venom curveball. That would be amazing. Also, Tom Hardy, love him to death. Great actor. Um, Mr. Marvelite on TikTok had a great response because I was like, oh, with Mysterio dead? And he was like, are you sure Mysterio's dead? And I would not be surprised to see another guy who is not only a good actor, but also a good guy and fun to work with. And like, I've seen him do it. Like, he's a good, like, Jake Gyllenhaal is he's not only like a really talented actor, he's also like well-liked and beloved. Yeah. And it's hard pressed to find someone who has a bad word about him. So I could see Marvel just like suddenly throwing him in there, and it's like or he might have a cameo as like a Quentin Beck, like in some kind of realm. I also noticed in the trailer they had him on 33rd Street in that mob scene, and Quentin Beck lived on 34th Street by the Empire State Building. So I don't know.
Rumored to be coming into the Raimi movies as well. Wasn't there one guy who was kept popping up in all three movies, and the rumor was that he was going to be Mysterio for the fourth one?
Yeah. So I mean, that's a possibility. Do I think it's likely? Maybe not. God, a random Craven would be great. Who do I think it's going to be? God, who else do we have? So what are the suspects? We got Craven, Mysterio again.
Vulture is he's still kicking around, and he's
still around. Yeah. So even though he obviously, and Scorpion too is an option too, as we saw him in the
post-credit scene.
I tend to feel like there's going to be like, they're not going to come together fully until the end. And the sixth one's going to be the one that carries over.
Yeah.
Almost like an evil version of when Captain America breaks out like Falcon, everyone after Civil War, right? So like wherever they are, like something attacks, and maybe like I want to say the Vulture, since Keaton's already involved, and like I could see them in a transport towards the end or something, and all of a sudden like a Vulture's talons rips the hood off and it ends. That's the end of it. Or it's like post-credit scene, because that could be something that'd be kind of cool, where he's like says something where he throws in a sinister pun in there. Yeah. Or maybe they tie it to Venom and they like shock the world and like he's at the end. I don't know, but I think they're going to get together, and I don't think it's going to be a Sinister Six. I think they want to make a Sinister Six movie. So I think that's going to be, and in the comics, it was Mysterio that brought them together, right? Yeah. Like he came back and then he brought the Sinister Six, right? Like he'd been gone. So God, I don't know. What do you think? I just gave you the most politician answer, where I basically gave all the answers instead, not tying down to one.
There are so many different possibilities that I can't even think of it now. With the news that Sony have changed their whole universe thing they've changed it to SSU, the Sony Spider-Man universe. I'm wondering, and I think I'm kind of hoping that they're going to go their own way with one of the Spider-Men who appear in this movie and do their own universe. And maybe we can get a symbiote Secret Wars storyline down the line for Tom Holland, which I would love. So I'm gonna cross out Venom there just for pure hope. Who do I think it could be? I do think Scorpion still has a part to play in this. They showed him in the post credits of Homecoming, and it still hasn't had any payoff yet. So I have a feeling it could be him, because he was one of the staple members in the comics.
So the interesting thing is that I was watching a video before this, spoiling for myself as one does, but I couldn't think about how they come together. And the theory that's out there makes a lot of sense. Whereas basically there's a lot of little things out there where, obviously the multiverse opens up so everything, which is interesting. And this is a great way of explaining it away, right? Like he pulls Peter's hair and he does a spell and whatever. And the multiverse happens because Peter can't shut his mouth. But the reason why it's all Spider-Man villains that are coming out of the woodwork is because it's his DNA. So his hair. So that's cool. And then what I saw was someone was saying that like, as these come in, Doctor Strange is the one who's like enclosing, like basically jailing them as they come in. He's stopping them. And Peter, I think, whether it's Doc Ock or whether it's someone else that, talks to Peter and talks him into it. Like, I think Peter's the one that's going to free them, because he's going to feel so bad about it. Like he doesn't even know some of these people. And I think that's what's going to happen. And there's one scene where Strange is like knocking Peter out of his body, like his spirit out of his body. I think that's the moment where he's like trying to be like the Iron Man, where he's trying to drop the hammer and be like kind of like mentor figure, and Peter's not listening to it, you know, whatever. And I think that's where that goes, you know, awry. And then I think they're going to come together, somehow be defeated. I still don't think, I find it hard to believe, because Doc Ock at the end saved the day, really. He's kind of like a Darth Vader, right? Like he at the very end turned and saved New York City from the tritium and the whatever it was called or whatever. So I think some of the folks in there, including Vulture, are iffy, right? They're not fully evil. I think Green Goblin's fully evil. I think Electro could go either way. So I think,
see, Sandman really wasn't towards the end as well.
No.
That's what
that's what makes them villains, right?
It's almost like he's protecting Peter from Electro's lightning. Yeah,
exactly. So I think there's going to be a faction, and we'll see. There could be, maybe there's a whole, maybe they've somewhat formed together. There's a battle. Somehow things, you know, come back down to reality, and there's a new team that's formed, right? So maybe there's a Kraven in a post-credit scene. I mean, we've had those kind of teases in the MCU. I mean, Guardians 2 had Adam Warlock, which we still haven't seen the culmination of that. So I'm waiting for a Kraven. I'm waiting for Scorpion to see how, you know, if his thing comes together, if it's the same actor, if it's a different actor, I don't know. So yeah, we'll see. I tend to think that the Sinister Six is not going to form during the movie. So there's my way out. I'm thinking that it's going to be the 5. They might be on different sides. They might be battling each other. And then I think we're going to get some kind of catalyst post movie that is going to work to bring them together. It could be Norman Osborn. I don't know. Have we met him so far? No, right?
No, he hasn't been in the MCU yet at all.
So that's interesting too. So that we'll have to see what happens there. Is it also Ned Leeds, his best friend? Isn't he? He's evil in the books, right? Like, which is a weird change.
He's one of them weird ones that almost like Harry Osborn, who has been flip-flopped back from villain. Like he went on in the comics and became the Hobgoblin.
Yeah, that's who it is. Exactly. I knew he was someone big. So, I mean, God help us. Maybe. I mean, dude, Jacob Batalon's a great. He's great. I can't see him as an evil person. He's too comic relief. So I don't know if there's like a multiverse version of him that is like older, so he's a little more intimidating, you know, and not so much like lovable, like you just want to give him a hug. Like maybe that comes in there, and that's the Hobgoblin. That would be epic. I could see that. That's a God, we gotta post a video about that. That's a great theory. If he becomes the Hobgoblin.
I hate speculating about stuff like this when it comes to a movie that Kevin Feige is in control of, because he has sent me too many swerve balls and he has made me look like an idiot too many times. I do not want another Ralph Boner situation. Although I respect him.
Ralph Boner was interesting. And then what was the one that happened recently also? That happened in Loki. We were throwing a curveball, weren't we? God, which one was that? There was one that was like, it wasn't classic Loki. It was something that we all expected, and then it went the other way. And I'm like, all right, whatever. It was you know, female Loki versus Enchantress. Like she was kind of a mix of the two. Everyone was fighting. I remember that was the one thing too, because I posted something and I think I just said, "Oh, Enchantress," or I said something like female Loki, and like someone jumped down my throat like, "You're an idiot. She's both. Like, you don't understand." I was like, all right. And then the guy ended up being right, but I was like, dude, you're a clown. Like, relax, calm down. Like, you know, we're here to have fun and stuff.
It's all speculation. It's all speculation until it's proved. And some people are just assholes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think, well, you look at their profiles, right? Like there's people that have been good. The one that I regret to this day that I posted, and I think if you have half of a brain, you know what I meant, was I posted about the effects of the gauntlet on Bruce versus Tony, right? So like Bruce is freaking out and his arm's burning and whatever. And then Tony is just like, he throws his hair back and then he snaps his finger and everyone jumped down my throat like, oh, what do you mean it didn't affect Tony? He died. And I was like, guys, and I started to like play back with the trolls where I was like, wait, spoiler alert, Tony dies? I turned the movie off after that. What do you mean? And so like, duh, you know that I know as a fan that Tony dies. I obviously meant like putting the gauntlet on and the reaction. And I really liked, I think Mr. Marvelite jumped in there and I think some others jumped in there too. Like, we're like, oh, the suit was like, and again, look, we're being ridiculous right now. We're analyzing some ridiculous stuff. Like, so we can say that, but it's fun. And if you're going to go at it like normal, I appreciate it. And then some people went in there and been like, you're an idiot. Someone made a video and the guy has like a lot of followers, but he was like, whatever, man, he died first of all. And I was like, I think I commented, I was like, all right, all love, brother. Like,
yeah,
cool, whatever. You know that I know he dies, but okay, fine. But
I see it with people. If anyone stitches one of my videos and wants to take the piss or whatever, I've stopped caring, because at the end of the day, in their description, there's a link to my profile. I'm getting free publicity.
Yeah. I was told a long time ago on all social media, as long as you can handle it, like it all helps the algorithm and helps the views. So it's fine. Like, it's cool. Do whatever you want to do to me. It's all right. Like that I think the one with the Tony versus Hulk, I think they're like 15,000 or 20,000 views. It's fine. Thanks, guys. Whatever.
There you go. like back on the, we're speaking about Tony there. I want to ask a question before we dissect the rest of the trailer, and then I've something fun to do then before we finish up.
This is one of the best times I've had in months, man. Seriously, this is a blast. I hope we can do this again, man. This is awesome.
100%. I'm actually so happy. This is the first, like, I haven't done this podcast in months, so this is my first time back in a while, and I'm delighted. But yeah, I was gonna ask your opinion on I'm sure you've seen it everywhere. I had it up to here with the Iron Boy Jr. remarks about Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's stupid. Yeah, about like the suit, or I actually haven't seen that too much. What's like the background behind that?
A lot of people now, and most people in the fandom are nice and I get along and we talk and differ opinions, but then there's some, when it comes to Tom Holland Spider-Man, say he is not, either call him whitewashed Miles Morales, or
God,
or they say he is just Iron Man's sidekick.
No, look. The funny thing is, and again, that's ignorance, right? So, I mean, your opinion, I'm guessing you like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, right? I think he's great.
Yeah, I think he's honestly the best adaptation we've had, in terms of he doesn't just follow one comic's Peter Parker. He follows a multitude of, whether it's spectacular, amazing, ultimate, all kind of mixed into one.
Well, he's actually the closest representation to the actual comics that we've had, like in general. Like, and like the funny thing is, like, for people that are like, oh, his sidekick, like if you look at, I think it was Civil War. Yeah, Civil War. Like that depiction in Civil War and in Homecoming is spot on. Like, I mean, obviously I think he was older in that book, and he was married to Mary Jane and he was like I think he was like either an intern or employee for Stark Technologies or whatever. But it's still like that relationship is what was in the books. Like, Tony's older, he's more accomplished, he's, and that's the relationship. I thought they were great. And I think that, like, and then look, that people that say that kind of stuff, like, are just like, I feel bad for them, because if you don't get the feels from watching like every single angle of that clip where when he comes back and they hug, like in Endgame, and I've seen the green screen version, I've seen the version, I think Chris Pratt snuck in a video like on his phone, because he was leaking stuff when he wasn't supposed to, and like I've seen all angles of that stuff. I've seen the Robert Downey speech at the end of shooting, and like people are just bawling, crying, like all these people that are like multi-millionaire actors and whatever are just like, it's 10 years coming to, like 11 years coming to an end. So if you can't get a kick out of that, and you've read the books and you're a fan of the books, and you can't like see a different adaptation and appreciate it, then I just feel bad for those people. I mean, it's silly. Tom Holland's been great. I love his antics. I actually love the person that he is. The fact that he can't keep his mouth shut and he's leaking shit. And Mark Ruffalo wants to like tie him up, and like Sebastian Stan, that's great, man. Like, I mean, we need more of that in the world, no matter what it is. And the Miles Morales thing, I can't comment too much about it because it's so stupid, but like, we're going to see Miles, we've seen Into the Spider-Verse. It was great. Fans are waiting for it. I think there's going to be a tie in No Way Home with the shelter that I think Miles either volunteered or was that, or that where we see that screenshot. So we're getting that, and we're going to get that. And so, I mean, there's just haters with everything, right? Like,
Yeah,
and there's nothing you can do, and it's silly. It's silly.
It's one of the things with the whitewashed Miles, actually. I'll get on to, actually, I remembered something there when you mentioned the shelter. And with calling him whitewashed Miles, what I'm always trying to say to people is he's actually not. That thing you're seeing is his likeness to the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, where then Miles comes in, and I was like, you're just looking for any reason to give out. I was like, all the comments I've seen of he would never let Iron Man be his mentor on like the Civil War comic. He would never do all this stuff just to impress people. In the Ultimate Comics, spoiler alert, he literally got killed trying to impress Captain America. It's all
exactly. Yeah, I think. Look, I mentioned that essay that I wrote, which is one of the things I'm most proud of, like years ago, about Suicide Squad. And I will tell you right now, because I talked about The Dark Knight, and I got like nasty stuff on social media. Like, I wouldn't go as far as say like death threats or whatever, but I definitely got some stuff that people were like, you're a moron, you're a clown. And I was like, why? Because I put my heart on the page and said, like, look, like, I love Batman, Superman. I love the DC universe. I'm the weirdo who actually liked the Breaking of Batman. And I was happy when Bane came in, in the third movie. And, like, I grew up on this stuff in the 90s and the 80s too. And I love that stuff. And so I think people are just silly, and that's the thing that's the downside of social media, right? That we have now, is that there's a lot of people that just want to be combative. And I think I try to look through to see what it is. If there's a debate that wants to happen, and we get like, I mean, you drop it in, other people drop, all movie things, Mr. Marvelite, Infinity Ruse, another one that's, God, he has great content. And there's some people out there that will drop in amazing stuff, and you learn. I love crowdsourced videos because I love, like, look, one of my breakdowns, I think was I did like 5 videos on the Spider-Man trailer, but one of them like missed a lot of things. There was a couple people that threw in a couple stupid comments, but then there was people that threw in there like, oh, you forgot about Sandman and Lizard. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a separate video on that. Or what about this? Or what about that? That kind of stuff is the beauty of social media, right? Like, you get together and you're basically just like fanboying out, which is great, and fangirling out too. So we're all about equal. Everyone can be a fan. And I think when you're just, pissing on someone's stuff, I think it's silly. It
really is. And like you said, it's the problem with social media. Like I said there, mentioned there, I'm not big on Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I go as far as to say I hate his depiction of Spider-Man, but I will not openly bash someone for liking him. If someone likes him, I'm like, fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
If they ask me, why don't you like him? I will always start by saying, this is nothing against you. You like him for your reasons, and that's perfectly fine. The reasons I don't like him are this. Other than that, I don't feel the need to berate someone for their opinion unless their opinion is harmful to others.
I think that's the fun stuff about it, right? Like, I think seeing perspectives and having the open mind to be like, oh, I could be wrong, is what really has those really fun moments of dialogue, right? Like, I mean, look, what we said earlier, where I said, oh, with Mysterio dead, it's got to be Vulture, this or whatever. And then, a comment jumped in and was like, are you sure Mysterio's dead? And I was like, ooh. And I was like, you caught me red-handed. Can't assume anything with the Marvel universe. And I was like, damn, like, really sharp comment. And if you're going to get annoyed by someone correcting you or throwing a different angle, again, I think, to sum it all up, the thing that the internet needs more and more of now is dialogue, more conversations, more dialogue, more openness to see other perspectives. And I think we're getting there. And again, more stories, right? So like, I think we will get like the newer Miss Marvel, is that Kamala Khan? We're going to get those characters. And I think those are coming. Miles Morales, I mean, God, what a beloved character. He's coming. Donald Glover was his uncle in Homecoming. So we're gonna see these people, and they're building out this universe. And I think that's also the thing that's really cool about, God, if Sony doesn't fuck it up, hopefully, because they almost did. Like, remember when like, it's so funny to think about this now, where we thought Tom Holland was like cut from the MCU like about a year or 2 or 3, whatever it was, which was the dumbest thing ever. But as long as that doesn't happen, God, we're really going to get an opportunity to see how amazing the Spider-Verse can be, because there's so many good characters. It's so funny because like I rack my brain, as much as we love Batman and Superman, and there's Darkseid, and there's a couple other really good villains in there. I love Deathstroke, partial to him, but like I try to think of some really good Batman villains that translated, like the Riddler, I guess, and the Joker. Obviously, no one's touching Heath Ledger or whatever, but there's not a lot. Spider-Man's got great ones. I mean, Craven is yet to come, and we have like 5 that we just throw up there, and there's more to come. So I think that's why Spider-Man is so much fun, and where other franchises have struggled. And so I think as long as this keeps going down that path, we're at the start of like an epic run, and Tom Holland's young enough, and we can get in a Miles Morales in there who's young, who can last for a half dozen movies or whatever, and we could see a really cool thing forming here. So I'm excited for that, and I think that's the thing we're all going to get to see that we haven't seen before, which is really cool. So
yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I have to get a 2-year-old to bed, so I'm going to round off that little game I was telling you about. So basically, it's going to be kind of just a quick this or that.
Okay.
So I want to see where you go. So let's start it off with the obvious one here: Maguire, Holland, or Garfield.
I'm gonna go Holland.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Batman or Iron Man?
Oh, I gotta go Batman.
Thor.
I gotta go Batman.
Thor or Superman?
Ooh. Superman.
Superman, that's fair. And digital or physical comics?
Oh, physical, man. Like I just started picking up, and it's funny. Oh, they're gone. But I like started picking it up. I was gonna pull something off. I picked up gloves, like white gloves, like, because I started buying classic comics, and I just got like, I mean, it's a piece of history, right? So and I know there's NFTs and new stuff that's coming up that's really cool, and blockchain is valuable, and it's limited and everything. But man, I got a pristine copy of The Death of Gwen Stacy recently, and I think it's like literally, and I don't know, I'm afraid to open it, but I want to read it. Like, I don't actually. The funny thing is, I have Marvel Unlimited, so I can look through any book I want, but I want to read the paper, and I actually don't mind seeing if someone wrote their name on it, or there's notes, or like, I mean, it's legit a piece of history that you're now a part of. And if it wasn't so damn expensive, I would love to get more, but like, God, it's the coolest thing. I mean, I have some that are like graded, but I want to open them up and like look through them, and it's, and when I talked about the other day about like my biggest mistake was owning that book in college, and now it's like 15 grand or something like that. And I sold it for nothing. And it was like, it would get like a 7 or 8.0. I'm like, it was in flawless. I remember selling it in college, and the guy who came over to buy it, because we connected on eBay, and he came over and he bought it for like, it was 3 figures for sure. It was not a lot of money. He was like, damn, dude, this is in really good shape. He's like, you sure you want to sell it? I'll never forget like him saying that to me. And God, what a mistake that was. But that's just the cool thing of seeing this stuff. I mean, and feeling it. And I'm a digital guy. I am in social media. I work in digital media. I work online. I work on everything. But there's just something really cool about having these books that are, have been around for 40, 50 years. And yeah, I just I gave you the longest answer for this or that in history, but God, I love it so much. Like, it's just such a cool thing. And I want to I want to start going back to conventions and shows again and seeing these things that I'll never buy. I'd love to see I've never seen an Action Comics 1 in person or Detective Comics or whatever. I want to see these things. Like, it's just so cool. But that's my lengthy take on it. Sorry.
Grand. Look, I'm gonna have to cut it there, but thank you so much for coming on the show. For anyone watching on YouTube, the link to Michael's TikTok's gonna come along the bottom there. Make sure to go give him a follow for some great comic book content, and we're doing this again very soon.
Yeah, thank you, man. It was a pleasure. You're one of the best ones, man. Whoever's out there, subscribe, follow. We're gonna do this again, man. This is a blast, and yeah, go take care of the little one, man.